Today, I'm actually just going to go over some of the nuances about investing in the US as a Canadian. It gets really interesting where you do custom filters. I could search based on bank REOs, which means the bank owns them. I figured I'd just dive right in with an example of some of the tools that I use and how I might look up properties. You can even go on the county website here and you can look up the deed of sale. Like, I've been nerding out on this stuff, full disclosure. Just figured I'd share it with you in case you get some value, in case that gives you some ideas. If I'm a Canadian thinking, hey, it's hard for Canadians to qualify, you could actually buy a house subject to. Another thing that I can do is I can see what else that owner owns. Welcome back to REI Hot Seat. Andrew Hines here for a solo episode, and today I'm actually just going to go over some of the nuances about investing in the US as a Canadian, what's different, what you might expect to see, how it's better, and how that might be a double-edged sword. So I figured I'd just dive right in with an example of some of the tools that I use and how I might look up properties. And the opportunity, so this is the type of thing that happens to me, and maybe it happens to you too, is as I start to see the tools and the information available, I start getting ideas. And I'm hoping that that's what you will have as a result of watching this. And if it does happen that way, be sure to show some love on the like, subscribe, notification, and comment area, because that'd be a big help for the show. Let's go ahead and visit one of the websites that I visit quite frequently, and that is Zillow.com. So this is the part that'll start to sort of blow your mind a little bit as to just like what you can find out about. So I'm going to go ahead and search Cape Coral, Florida. I often look for deals there, and Cape Coral is actually having an interesting issue right now. They have like 6,000 listings for sale, and fortunately I sold almost all of my stuff there. I just have one lot left, but they have almost 6,000 houses for sale, and they only sold 300 and change last month. So I mean, if you calculate that in terms of a days of inventory, it's like 600 days of inventory on the market right now. That's not great if you're a homeowner in Cape Coral, but it is great if you want to invest there and potentially get yourself a great deal. So that's the angle I'm going to take with this. Like, so what if I wanted to like look for properties, and how might I look for properties? And then what tools could I use to sort of evaluate my options? So right now I have 3-bed plus, 2-bed plus set up, houses only. And I have set for 6 months or more on the market, and then I have $500,000 or less. But if you really wanted to squeeze it, you could look at 400,000 and just narrow that search down. And these are houses that have been on Zillow for a year. So 6 months. So you're assessing a little bit of a motivation there. There's likely going to be some pretty motivated sellers because they've been listed for so long. Depends on if they're in a situation where they need to sell. But let's just kind of look at some of the information that you see. So this one's $299, pretty low price point if you think about getting a full detached house for that. Of course, at that price point, you're not going to have a pool, just, from my knowledge of Cape Coral. $1,366 is the price on this one. They got a lot of views, yet somehow still haven't sold. So some of the things you'll see distinctly different right off the bat. You'll see a Zestimate. So this is Zillow's estimate of the value. And I know there are a lot of wholesalers out there that actually really rely on Zestimate. It's considered to be fairly accurate, which I think is impressive because we don't have something like that in Canada. But you're seeing a very recent kind of drop in the estimated value of this property. His estimate's saying it's $289. They've got it priced at, $299. Very reasonable price points compared to what we're used to as Canadians. But then you can see the history of the price point, what they think it was worth over time. You can also see all the pricing changes, when the listing was set up, how long it's been listed. So in this case, this thing's been listed quite a bit this year. It looks like they removed a listing at some point last year, so in August. So that's where the 6 months is coming from. So they had tried to sell it before. I don't know why they don't have the information on what it was listed for then. Sometimes you can check. So another one you can check is Redfin. If this doesn't have all the information, Redfin also provides similar information, as well as provides their own estimate. Here's a site though. This is a free site that I found, and it's got some interesting stuff, although the data is not 100% reliable. But just before I show you that, You can even go on the county website here and you can look up the deed of sale. Like you can actually see a PDF. I don't know if it works in Lee County, but I've looked up in one of the other counties in Florida and you can actually see a PDF of the deed of sale of the property. Like that's the level of public knowledge of information. You can look up owners through the county website, but you don't even have to do that. So anyways, if I were to take that address and go over to this site, it's called PropWire. I can take the address here. I'm just going to grab that and copy it and paste it right here. And I'm just going to hit search. Oh, I might have done that wrong. Just do that. That's what I should have done. Should have clicked it. Okay. So this site is free, PropWire, and the data is often right, but not always. But it's valuable in my opinion to take a look at. So you'll see the listing if it's currently listed, year built. It'll estimate the equity in the property. So you can see when the first mortgage was recorded. This is saying 2008. It tells you obviously the living area of the property, their estimated loan balance. You can see the original loan balance. So this is where, you know, it can kind of give you an idea of what kind of offer you can make. Maybe you could approach that seller for vendor take back financing because you know what their mortgage is. If it was a super high mortgage, you could actually do something, which this absolutely blew my mind down here, but they have something called subject to, and there are people who buy houses subject to the existing mortgage. So if I'm a Canadian thinking, hey, it's hard for Canadians to qualify, you could actually buy a house subject to, have the previous owner stay on that mortgage, and then you just take over payments. And I know what you're thinking. Why would anyone want to do that? Well, you have to put yourself in their shoes. Like a lot of the people that would take that kind of a deal might be pre-foreclosure. So they're about to lose their house in a foreclosure, and then that would tarnish their credit for like the next 10 years. They probably have a hard time ever buying a house again. So a lot of sellers in that scenario would rather do the subject to than have their credit messed up. And keep in mind, you making the payments for them on their behalf for many years to come actually builds their credit and improves their credit. So hard to fathom for a Canadian, saying this from experience, but the more I've researched it, the more it made sense. So anyways, it just starts to open up ideas. And the double-edged sword effect of that is if all this information is available to me, it's available to everybody else. And the vultures tend to swarm around certain subjects. And I'll point that out to you. So one of the things I would look for potentially is tax delinquency. Again, this is public information. So has this owner been tax delinquent in, the past? Are they tax delinquent now? In this case, they're not tax delinquent now. Super low tax amount. Keep in mind, this is free software. You can just look this up. So then I can look up owner. I can actually see Patricia Cooper E Living Trust. I can see the mailing address. And then you can do something for like 10 cents or 5 cents, depending on the site. You can skip trace that owner and find whatever publicly recorded, or if it's been recorded anywhere using the credit bureau or what have you, you can find her phone number, email, and pretty reliably. Again, totally wild. Another thing that I can do is I can see what else that owner owns. And this is, again, just on this property software, which is free. She owns other property in Cape Coral from the looks of it. Actually, no, these are the same address. So this is just duplicate entries. But then also owns some land on Aviation Parkway. If I wanted to look at that, I could just hit the button there and check that out. So again, not completely reliable, this software. There's like a paid version of it, which I also do use, called PropStream. Tends to be a bit more reliable, but I find it less user-friendly. So, but yeah, sure, if I'm just perusing, this is obviously the one that I would go with, and I do use it here and there. So I just wanted to give you an idea of the type of information you could get, and it goes deeper than that. Like you can actually search by, so on this software and PropStream, so I can go back to Cape Coral, Florida, and then I could search based on a certain type of lead. So I could search based on absentee owners. So if this is, this means the person does not live at that property. I could search based on bank REOs, which means the bank owns them, cash buyers. So that's basically people who have bought with cash nearby. So I could search the street address, and then I could just zoom out and search cash buyers, and I could find out who bought cash around there, because a lot of times those are investors, people who flip, things like that. So if I want to find a potential buyer, say I tied up a deal and maybe I want to wholesale it, I could literally find it by searching the cash buyer list. Again, wild information. Having done business in Canada and seeing the information we have information on. Flipped properties, and I'm guessing it does that based on a quick transition of a property being bought and sold. I don't know the exact criteria it's using for that. High equity, low equity, again, those are estimates based on the mortgage that was registered. Interfamily transfers, I don't know why you would want to search for that, but whatever. So you can search active MLS, but then it gets really interesting where you do custom filters. But here you can have pre-foreclosures, which means these people have been given notice by the bank that they're not up to date, and they have so many months before the bank can force an auction, and then after the auction they can go to sale, because a lot of times these properties don't sell at auction. But if you knew that somebody was about to get foreclosed on, that's a motivated seller, or should be, unless they're the ostrich with the head in the sand. So again, tons of opportunity with that. But I consider that a double-edged sword once again, because if I know somebody's on the pre-foreclosure list, I know that there's going to be vultures circling, so to speak. There's going to be tons of people blowing up their phone, calling their realtor if it's a listed property. And ultimately what that does is just make them a lot less likely to pick up their phone. So I maybe I'm a bit of a contrarian in that regard, because I'll typically do the opposite of what everyone else is doing. So I'm actually not going after that list, because I've called pre-foreclosure agents and like they just didn't even respond. Not that I called a ton, but I called like a handful one day and like no one responded. So not to say they won't, and of course keep with it. But I was just, and not that I won't, I will still call them. I'm just saying that was my brief experience with calling them. So you keep that in mind. But I would think if you're into real estate and you're into acquisition, light bulbs might be going off, because to me, it's never been so clear that it's really just a factor of number of reps. Like, how many people do you contact? And right now I'm rolling out stuff where we're going to be contacting a ton of people. So we're doing outbound calling. We're doing, I've been doing like direct mail offers as well, which, again, knowing that other people are doing the same thing, there's varying success rates. These all still work, but it's how many dollars will you invest into each strategy. But the big thing I like about down here is there's people that start with absolutely nothing, no money, and they just pick up the phone and they just call people. And with the information here, you can literally think of the solution. If you know they're high leverage, and they're basically, their mortgage is at the value of the property, there's a scenario where you might want to propose subject to and try and buy the property that way. And if you know they're low leverage or no mortgage, now I can ask them for a VTB. If you know that they own 4 properties and you can search that way, they're an investor, they might not need the cash, maybe a VTB makes sense to them. And you can kind of customize your offer for the different person you're going after. So I've been nerding out on this stuff, full disclosure. Just figured I'd share it with you in case you get some value, in case that gives you some ideas. You got questions, things you want to know about, or if this has got the wheels spinning, let me know what you're wondering about next, and maybe I'll do a video on it. So thanks for tuning in and keeping on this video so far. And once again, show some love in the comments and share this with somebody if you're enjoying. And I will see you again next week. Thanks a lot.